God said, and he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life, and lo, Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. God returned. You know, Sarah was old. She passed the point of where she could bear children. But God said, I'm going to return to you the time of life. It could be that Sarah, unaged, miraculously, because if you study this in chronology, it's quite possible that when we get to chapter 20, Sarah may have already been pregnant with Isaac. So possibly Sarah had unaged and looked young and beautiful again. Again, that's reading into it a little bit. Or it may just be that Sarah was just a beautiful old woman. I don't know. But either way, Abraham said, boy, you know, when we get here, you need to tell them that you're my sister. So that's what happened, and Abimelech took Sarah, and look what happens in verse 3. God comes to Abimelech in a dream and said, you're a dead man, for the woman you have taken, she's a man's wife. And Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, will you also slay a righteous nation? And said he not unto me, she's my sister. Notice Abimelech goes to do this wickedness. And he doesn't know that he's about, I mean, he thought he was righteous in what he was doing.
Right.
But let me ask you a question. Is ignorance an excuse?
No.
God said, you're a dead man. You're a dead man. He tries to use the, boy, I didn't know. Well, he should have gone a little further and investigated and made sure he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Right.
And you know, that's the when we stand before the Lord, a lot of Christians, well, God, we didn't know. Is that going to be an excuse?
No.
What's God going to say? I tried to tell you. You wouldn't listen. So Abimelech says, you know, Lord, I didn't know, and they said that she was his sister. Let's see. He says, in the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands have I done this. Notice that God prevented Abimelech from actually committing the sin. And so many times in our lives, God divinely intervenes and protects us from walking into trouble that we shouldn't get into.
Not that we can't push past it, because sometimes we can push past it.
We can push past it, but
and then really reap wrath.
But God is merciful, and even when we're about to do something that we don't know we shouldn't do, God will step in and say, "Hold on, Dennis. You know, that's stop." And then you have a decision. You can't call it. You can't use ignorance anymore.
Yeah.
Now look at verse 7. It says that restore the man to his wife, for he's a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. If you restore her not, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are thine. Think about that. Here this man took Abraham's wife, and God tells him, all right, you need to give the wife back to him, and he's going to pray for you. How would you feel if someone took your wife and said, oh, I'm sorry, man, here she is back. Will you pray for me?
Some men would just say, you can keep her.
Probably.
Go ahead.
I've been praying.
So Abimelech rises early, calls all the servants and tells them what happened. And then he calls Abraham and says, what have you done? You know, I've not done anything to you. And you brought this great sin on my kingdom. You shouldn't have done this. And Abraham said, well, I didn't think the fear of God was in this place, and I thought you would kill me to have my wife. And then he uses she really is kind of my sister.
Yeah.
She's my father's daughter, but not my mother's daughter. She's my half-sister.
Half-truth.
So he pulls out the half-truth deal. And, we use that a lot.
Mm.
But then it says that he used this when it says, it came to pass in verse 13, when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, this is the kindness which you shall show unto me at every place where we shall come, say of me, he's my brother. So this was a determined, pre-organized thing.
Right.
Wherever they went, Sarah said, oh, that's my brother. We're brother and sister. Abraham, when God called Abraham out of Ur, they should have had the faith, hey, God's going to take care of us. So he gives Sarah back, and he gives Abraham sheep and goats and 1,000 pieces of silver, and he says, hey, wherever you want to stay, wherever you want to live, you go ahead and live there. And he tells Sarah, hey, I've given this to your brother, and he's going to be a covering of the eyes, and you're reproved. In other words, what he's telling Sarah, look, I know a lot of people are probably going to look at you and think, oh my goodness, you know what she did? But when the people see what the king did for Abraham and Sarah, that's going to kind of take the attention off all this stuff that just happened. And then Abraham prayed unto God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his maidservants, and they bare children, for the Lord had closed all the wounds of the house of Abimelech. So God, when Abimelech took Sarah, God closed up all the wounds. But then God healed them and let them have children again. So that's kind of a primary application. If you want to read the chapter and pull some things out of it, that's what we can do with this chapter. I want to go a little bit deeper. What do you say?
Yeah.
All right. Let me strap on some tanks.
What in the world is this? What's God trying to tell us? Is he trying to tell us don't tell a half-truth? Is that why he included this story in the
Let
Bible?
your yes be yes and your no be no.
Is that the message that God's trying to communicate to his people, or is there something more?
The truth will set you free.
Back in that Genesis chapter 12, when Abraham went down to Egypt, what was God trying to tell us back then? Anybody remember?
You can't go back.
You can't go
You gotta
back.
stay
Why?
where you were. He left the presence of God. Is this a warning from that? Because he was up in the mountain, but he just
He
drew
was
away.
in the presence of God, but he's still in Canaan in the promised land. It's just he ventured downward, which really he doesn't have any other direction to go but downward if you're on the mountain.
What that whole story back in Genesis chapter 12, there was a famine in the land.
Mm-hmm.
So Abraham and Sarah went down to
He
Egypt.
was trying to help God take care of
In
himself.
both cases, he didn't trust God to take care
Right.
of him.
Right.
He didn't trust him in the famine, and when he was traveling in foreign places, to him foreign, he didn't trust him to take care of Sarah, his wife.
Right.
For himself. He always felt like someone was going to kill him, as if God was going to let him get killed.
Let's think about this story a little bit
Deeper?
Back in Genesis chapter 12, there's a famine.
Mm-hmm.
So Abraham and Sarah go down to Egypt. Okay? And Egypt takes Sarah for his own.
Mm-hmm.
And then God brings all these plagues on Pharaoh and the Egyptians. So Pharaoh says, get out, go. And he sends them with great substance. Does that sound like any other story in the Bible?
The whole Israelite tribe,
The whole nation of it. There was a famine in the land.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened?
they went to Egypt.
They went to Egypt. And while they were down in Egypt, what did Pharaoh do with the Israelites?
Enslaved them.
He took them
He
as
took him as
his
slave.
own. And what did God do?
He sent the plague.
He sent the plague. He sent Pharaoh, and he sent the plagues, and finally Pharaoh said, "That's it.